You think you have money in your bank account right now? No. You have an IOU. But with central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, you do not even have that. You get a Chuck E. Cheese token. Let me explain the difference between the electronic money you use today and the programmable money they are building. Right now, when you buy a coffee with Apple Pay, the bank knows you bought a coffee. That is bad for privacy, sure. But with programmable money, they can decide if you are allowed to buy that coffee. Think of it like an arcade token. You walk into a gaming arcade and you exchange your real universal cash for a plastic coin. That plastic coin works only inside that specific arcade. The owner of the arcade sets the prices. The owner controls the difficulty of the games. And if you kick the machine or break a rule, the owner can throw you out, and your pocket full of plastic tokens becomes worthless plastic trash instantly. That is the CBDC. It is a token that only works inside their system, under their rules. They can program it to have an expiration date. Imagine getting your salary on the 1st of the month and being told you must spend it by the 30th or it vanishes. Use it or lose it. They can program it with geofencing, so your money works in the city but stops working if you travel 5 miles to the countryside. They can link it to your carbon footprint. You bought too much red meat this week? Sorry, transaction denied. Insufficient social credit score. This is not money. This is a voucher system for good behavior. Oh, I hear you already. You are rolling your eyes. But I pay with my watch. It is so fast. It is so convenient. I hate carrying coins. Congratulations. You have fallen for the oldest trick in the book. Convenience is the bait on the hook. You saved 4 seconds at the checkout line at Starbucks, and in exchange, you sold your entire purchasing history to a central server. Good trade, genius. And do not give me that nonsense about having nothing to hide. If you have nothing to hide, please hand me your unlocked phone, your email password, and let me install a camera in your bedroom. No? Why not? You have nothing to hide, right? The nothing to hide argument is the slogan of the slave. Every transaction you make is a data point. Where you go, what you eat, what medicines you buy, which political books you read. They are building a profile of you that is more accurate than your own memory, and you are handing them the bricks to build your own prison cell because you are too lazy to carry a wallet. They do not ban cash overnight. That causes riots. That makes people wake up. No, they do it slowly. It is the boiling frog strategy. They just make you feel like a drug dealer for trying to buy a used Honda with banknotes. Look at Europe. In France and Italy, it is already illegal to make a cash payment over 1,000 euros. Try buying a decent television or a laptop with cash. You cannot. It is illegal. You are treated like a criminal for using legal tender. They remove the ATMs. They close the bank branches. They make it harder and harder to actually get your own money out of the system. They claim cash is for criminals. They claim it is dirty. They claim it spreads viruses. It is a coordinated campaign to make the physical option so annoying that you beg for the digital one. You think this is just about control? I wish it was that simple. It is much worse. They are building this digital cage because their old paper casino is burning down. The system is broken. The debt is unpayable. And they need a way to lock the exits before you realize the building is on fire. Let me show you the flames. October 25th, 2021, Lagos, Nigeria. The pilot program begins. They didn't ask people to switch. They choked the supply of paper money until the ATMs ran dry. This was the launch of the e-Naira, the central bank digital currency of Africa's largest economy. The government decided to force the population into the digital future. They implemented a policy called the cash swap. The idea was to invalidate old banknotes and replace them with new ones. But here is the trick. They didn't print enough new notes. Millions of people were left with zero cash. They couldn't buy food. They couldn't pay for the bus. Small businesses collapsed overnight. People were burning down banks in the streets of Lagos. It wasn't a glitch. It was a hostage situation. The government effectively said, use our new digital app or starve. The central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, smiled for the cameras. He said this was about inclusion. He said this was about helping the poor grandmother in the village send money to her family without paying predatory fees. He said it was to stop kidnappers from demanding cash ransoms. Touching, isn't it? A benevolent technological leap forward to help the unbanked enter the modern economy. They always wrap the handcuffs in velvet. They always tell you it is for the poor, for the children, for safety. But if it was really for the people, why did the people have to be coerced into using it? Wait, if the e-naira is the future, why did they have to starve the country of cash to get anyone to use it? Think about it. When the iPhone came out, the government didn't have to ban BlackBerries to make you switch. The iPhone was just better. It won on merit. Usually, technology wins by being superior, not by banning the alternative. Here, they broke your legs and offered you a crutch. If the digital product is so good, why sabotage the physical one? Why create a humanitarian crisis to sell a mobile app? Because nobody wanted it. That is why. The market rejected it, so the state forced it. Fact-checkers screamed, "Money doesn't expire. That is a conspiracy theory." Oh, really? Look at China. The digital yuan has a use it or lose it function. The code is already written. Trials in Shenzhen and Chengdu involved stimulus money that had an expiration date. If you did not spend it within a few weeks, it vanished from your wallet. Why write code for a feature you promise never to use? That is like building a car with an ejector seat and promising you will never press the button. The capability is there, and once the capability is there, it is only a matter of time before a crisis justifies using it. Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank, says, "We love cash." She says the digital euro will complement cash, not replace it. Meanwhile, try buying a television in Paris with banknotes. You cannot. It is illegal. If you love cash so much, why are you treating it like plutonium? Why are national laws in European Union member states tightening the noose every single year? 1,000 euro limits in France. High fees for withdrawals. Mandatory reporting. How can you say you complement something that you are actively outlawing? It is hypocrisy on an industrial scale. February 2022. Canada. The government didn't send tanks to stop the trucker protests. They sent emails. They froze the bank accounts of protesters. No trial, no judge, just a click. 200 accounts frozen under the Emergencies Act invoked by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And that was with old technology. That was with clumsy, slow, legacy banking systems. They had to call the banks and order them to do it. Imagine if they had the absolute control button. Imagine if they could turn off the wallets of every single person in that convoy, instantly, automatically, algorithmically. The Canadian freeze was a warning. It proved that your money is only your money if your political views align with the state. Nigeria, China, Canada, Europe. You think these are isolated incidents? Wrong. They are beta tests. Different features of the same operating system are being tested in different environments. Nigeria tested the coercion. China tested the expiration dates. Canada tested the political freezing. And the code for that system wasn't written in Lagos or Beijing. It was written in a tower in Switzerland that looks like a nuclear silo. Let's go pay them a visit. Stop. You think they are building this digital prison because they like apps? No. They are building it because their old house is collapsing. To understand the digital euro, we need to go back to 1971, to the day money died. August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon goes on television and temporarily suspends the convertibility of the US dollar into gold. That temporary measure is now more than 50 years old. That was the moment money changed from being a store of value into a debt instrument. Before 1971, money was tied to something physical. You couldn't just print it forever. After 1971, money became fiat. It is backed by nothing but faith and the promise of the government. This started the credit supercycle. For 50 years, the entire global economy has been fueled by expanding debt. You borrow from tomorrow to pay for today. But there is a mathematical problem with a debt-based system. It requires constant expansion. You must print more money tomorrow to pay the interest on the debt you created today. It is a Ponzi scheme that requires new entrants forever. But what happens when you reach the end of the road? What happens when you have $300 trillion in global debt, which is 350% of the global GDP? The system is run by the central banks, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan. But who runs the central banks? There is a bank for them. It is called the Bank for International Settlements, or the BIS. Established in 1930, it is the oldest international financial institution in the world. It is the central bank of central banks. It is located in Basel, Switzerland, and for decades, it was the most secretive club in the world. Unelected technocrats meet there to decide the fate of the global economy. They coordinate monetary policy. They decide when to turn the liquidity tap on and when to turn it off. In 2008, the financial crisis almost killed the system. The debt bubble popped. To save it, the central banks slashed interest rates to 0%. They printed trillions of dollars. They kicked the can down the road. But they hit a wall. They hit the zero lower bound. They wanted to lower interest rates even further, into negative territory, to force people to spend. But they couldn't. Here is the problem. If the bank charges you to hold your money, which is what negative rates mean, you just take your cash out and put it under your mattress. As long as physical cash exists, they cannot enforce negative interest rates. That zero lower bound is the wall they hit. And that is why cash must die. Now let's look at the headquarters. The BIS Tower in Basel, Switzerland. It is literally an extraterritorial sovereign entity. It is like an embassy, but for bankers. Swiss authorities cannot enter without permission. The Swiss police cannot raid the building. Their documents are immune from search and seizure. Their employees have diplomatic immunity. It is the Vatican of money. A state within a state. This is where the blueprint for the global financial system is drawn. The resource here is not gold or oil. It is policy coordination. Every 2 months, the governors of the world's most powerful central banks, the Fed, the Bank of England, the ECB, fly to Basel for the Sunday dinners. There are no minutes kept, no transcripts released, no oversight from any parliament or Congress. In these rooms, decisions affecting $100 trillion in assets are made over wine and cheese. And in these rooms, they decided that mere stimulus was not enough. They realized that to keep the debt bubble inflated, they needed direct control over how, when, and where money is spent. The BIS dictates policy to national central banks through the Basel Accords. Basel I, Basel II, Basel III. These are the prudential standards that tell banks how much capital they must hold. It sounds boring, but it is the colonial machine of the 21st century. If a country disobeys these standards, its banking system is cut off from the global flow of capital. The global banking cartel wins. Sovereign nations and local economies lose. It is a centralized command structure that bypasses national democracy completely. Countries that have tried to bypass this dollar-based, BIS-coordinated system have not fared well. Look at Iraq. Look at Libya. Attempting to create an independent currency backed by gold or oil usually results in a sudden dose of freedom dropping from the sky. The system defends itself aggressively. But the biggest threat wasn't a rogue dictator. It was a mathematical limit. Negative interest rates are a complex topic, so let me explain why your mattress is the enemy of the state using a bar analogy. Imagine the economy is a bucket of water. The central bank wants to keep the water level high to stimulate the economy. But the bucket has holes. Those holes are debt. The water keeps leaking out. So they keep pouring more water in by printing money. In 2008, the holes got too big. The water was leaking out faster than they could pour it. So they decided to try something radical. They decided to tilt the bucket. This is what negative interest rates are. By tilting the bucket, they want the water to flow out faster, forcing you to spend your money instead of saving it. They want to charge you a fee for keeping water in your cup. But wait, you have a magic sponge. That magic sponge is cash. When they try to tilt the bucket and make the water flow out, you can just soak up the water with your sponge and put it in your pocket. You can hide the water. The water doesn't flow where they want it to. The central bank screams. As long as the magic sponge exists, they cannot successfully tilt the bucket. They cannot force you to spend. They cannot tax your savings into oblivion because you have an escape hatch. CBDC is not new water. CBDC is simply banning the sponge. Once the sponge is gone, they can tilt the bucket as much as they want. They can set interest rates to -5%. Your money will shrink by 5% every year if you do not spend it, and you will have nowhere to hide. You will drown in their policy. That $100 bill in your pocket is a glitch in their matrix. It is a vote of no confidence, and they are tired of you voting. Now connect the dots back to Augustin Carstens, the general manager of the BIS. He realized something terrifying around 2017. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies were acting as a super sponge. Not only did they allow people to exit the banking system, but they were also immune to inflation. If everyone moved to crypto, the central banks would lose their power completely. They would lose control over the money supply. This was an existential threat. So, the BIS launched the Innovation Hub in 2019. The goal was simple: to create central bank digital currencies before big tech companies like Facebook with its Libra project or decentralized crypto could take over. It was a defensive move. Carstens effectively said, "If we do not issue digital money, someone else will." They needed to capture the digital space to maintain their monopoly. Then came the perfect storm. The year 2020. The pandemic. Suddenly, cash was dangerous. It was dirty. It carried germs. Use contactless. Touchless payments became the moral duty of every citizen. While you were washing your groceries with bleach, they were writing the code for the e-Naira, the digital euro, and FedNow. COVID-19 accelerated the digitalization of payments by 7 years in just a few months. Cash usage dropped by 30 to 40% almost overnight. The trap was set. Nigeria was just the first live-fire test of this new weapon. We know the plan. We know the weapon. Now let's look at the mechanics of the betrayal. How exactly will they force you into the cage? It is not by law. It is by nudge. Remember the riots in Lagos? The frozen accounts in Ottawa? You might think these are glitches. They are not. They are features. To understand how they work, we need to look at the contract that nobody read. Nigeria wasn't a failed experiment. It was a successful stress test of the mechanism. The question changes from why did it fail to who built the cage. The specific deal is not a suitcase of cash handed to a politician. It acts through technical standards and foreign contractors. The smoking gun in Nigeria is the contract to build the e-Naira. It wasn't given to a Nigerian company. It was awarded to a fintech company called Bit Inc., based in Barbados. Bit Inc. specializes in digital currency infrastructure, using a technology called Hyperledger Fabric. But here is the real transaction. The e-Naira was hard-coded to require the bank verification number, or BVN. This is the merger of your digital identity and your digital wallet. You cannot have a CBDC without a digital ID. The transaction is the forced integration of your identity with your money. Under the guise of tiered KYC, they set the rules. To unlock your money, to lift the limits, you must trade more data. Without the ID, the money is just useless code. With the ID, the money is a tracking device. Cash wasn't killed because it is dirty. It was killed because of the data gap. Every cash transaction is a black hole to them. The deal was simple. Trade privacy for access. Bit Inc. didn't just build an app. They built a panopticon. Who pushed Nigeria and other nations to do this? Who is whispering in the ears of governments? Enter the shadow character, the Better Than Cash Alliance. It sounds like a charity, doesn't it? Based at the United Nations. But look at the members. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Visa, MasterCard, Citi, USAID. Why would Visa and MasterCard want to kill cash? Because they make $0 when you pay with paper. But when you swipe, when you use digital payments, they make 2 to 3% on every single transaction. They call it the Better Than Cash Alliance. Better for whom? For the grandmother in the village? No. Better for Visa and MasterCard, who make billions in fees. Better for the data miners who sell your profile. Their motive is profit and surveillance masked as financial inclusion. They lobby governments to digitize payments, claiming it helps the poor, while building an infrastructure that taxes every movement of money on the planet. And here is the moment your blood should run cold. It is not just about tracking, it is about editing. With physical cash, you own the value. With CBDC, you own a license to use the value. And licenses can be revoked. Bo Lee, the deputy managing director of the IMF, said it clearly at a high-level meeting. He said, quote, "CBDC can allow us to precisely control what people can and cannot own," end quote. He called it targeted money. Imagine your stimulus check can only be spent on food but not alcohol, or it expires on Friday, or it only works within 5 miles of your home. This is the programmability of money. Who wins? The Bank for International Settlements wins the stability of their debt-based system. Governments win total tax compliance and the ability to silence dissenters. Visa and MasterCard win a cut of every economic interaction in the world. Who loses? You lose the option to exit. You lose the ability to transact privately. You lose your sovereignty. The mechanism is built. The players are in place. The test runs are finished. The only thing left is to close the gate, and you are standing inside. Financial privacy is dead. We even didn't notice how they buried it under a pile of bonus points and cash-back offers. The loser in this war is not an abstract concept. It is you. It is your right to exist outside the digital grid. Your right to buy a loaf of bread without seeking approval from a server in Switzerland has been annulled. The resistance in Nigeria was heroic, but let's be honest, it was agony, not victory. In Europe, cash limits are already choking the life out of physical money. In Australia, bank branches are disappearing faster than the rainforest. We have lost the right to transact freely. Now, every purchase is a confession. Who won? The Bank for International Settlements won everything. They dreamed of absolute control, and they got it. Visa and MasterCard are no longer just payment processors. They are the gatekeepers of reality. They make percentages on the entire global GDP. The system did not just survive, it cemented its power. They can now enforce negative interest rates. They can enforce instant taxation. They can silence political opposition with a keystroke, just like they did in Canada. The exits are sealed. Remember where we started, with the arcade tokens? I told you that CBDCs are like plastic coins that only work inside the gaming room. Well, the reality is much worse. In an arcade, you can walk out the door and go home. In the world they have built, there is no outside. The street has been demolished. Cash was the street. Cash was the public space where we could meet and trade without the landlord watching. Now, the entire world is the arcade. The BIS holds the master switch. If you complain about the rules, your token doesn't just get rejected, it disappears. Official version? It is an upgrade to the slot machine. Reality? It is a cage with neon lights. We walked into this trap willingly. We traded our freedom for convenience. We put on the digital handcuffs because they came with a sleek interface and a loyalty program. Convenience is the ultimate narcotic. It seduced us into surrendering our sovereignty. Tyranny didn't come in army boots kicking down your door. It came in the form of a QR code that saved you 3 seconds at the checkout. The circle is closed. We handed them the keys. The world is not ruled by ideas about freedom or democracy. The world is ruled by those who control the ledger. Those who hold the server are the kings. Those who use the app are the serfs. Freedom is uncomfortable. Freedom is dirty. Freedom is slow. We chose clean, fast, and comfortable slavery. If you have watched this far, my respect to you. Most people prefer to sleep. Most people prefer to believe this is just progress. But you? You are now awake. You see the bars. They are digital, invisible, but they are stronger than steel. This knowledge won't make you rich. It won't make you happy. But it will make you one of the few who knows where they actually stand. In the next few years, when they offer you a bonus to switch to the new digital ID, or when they tell you that cash is dangerous, ask yourself one question. Cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits from knowing everything you buy? Who benefits from being able to turn off your money? And maybe, just maybe, keep a few banknotes in your pocket, as an act of rebellion, as a souvenir of the time when we were free. The game is over, but as long as you have cash, you have one extra token.